Ryan Wolfson. This is the Sports JAWN. We're going into week 2 of the NFL season. Today is Tuesday, so I'll be going over the fantasy football waiver wire ads of the top priority of my list. After the first week, there's really only handcuff running backs, so I'm not going to be talking about them. And there's a handful of tight ends, but there's a couple guys that are proven but are kind of mid, like Hunter Henry or Brent Strange. And then there's a couple guys that are kind of unproven that might have some upside, like JAWN Johnson or Harold Fanning, but not going to really prioritize them. The ones I'm going to talk about this week are quarterbacks and wide receivers. So let's just get right into it. Wide receivers. Top player I'd probably add this week in all formats is Kayshon Boutte from the New England Patriots. Last week, he led the team in snaps, targets, yards by a wide margin. He played at LSU, and he fell in the draft due to gambling charges, which were later dropped. This is his 3rd year in the league, and it seems like to be the guy that May is looking for down the field. It's early, but maybe him and not Stephon Diggs winds up being the number 1 for the Patriots, and if that's the case, he'll be a top 30 wide receiver for the rest of the way, and I just think his upside compared to everything else that's out there is just way too high. Next guy, wide receiver Quentin Johnson from Los Angeles Chargers. He's a former first-round pick, also in his 3rd year. In week 1, he led his team in yards and also had 2 touchdowns. He played the 2nd most snaps at wide receiver behind Ladd McConkey. Chargers look to be throwing a lot more than previously expected, and being the number 2 passing option with an elite quarterback like Justin Herbert, Johnson could be a season-long flex play and a top 35 wide receiver for the rest of the season. And I do think Keenan Allen is more of the 3rd wide receiver. It doesn't mean that they won't be closer in numbers, but I would take the upside because Johnson plays more on the outside, and McConkey and Allen would rotate in the slot and outside. The next guy I want to talk about is Hollywood Brown from the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think he's as explosive as the wide receivers who finished 2nd and 3rd in snaps, catches, and yards. Once Worthy got hurt, which is Juju Smith-Schuster and Tyquan Thornton. But Brown was by far targeted the most, and he played the most snaps among the wide receivers on the Chiefs. Royce doesn't come back till week 7. We're not really sure about Worthy's injury, how long he's going to be out for as well. In the meantime, Hollywood could be helpful in the first half of the season, especially in full-point PPR league, being the number 1 or 2 passing option in an Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes offense. Well, the 2 quarterbacks I want to talk about. First one is J.J. McCarthy from the Minnesota Vikings. I had him as the quarterback 17, which was a lot higher than most people going into the season. And why I had him ranked that high is what I saw on Monday Night Football. He is maybe the best wide receiver along with Addison, who didn't play, Thielen, Naylor, and Hawkinson to throw to, so he has a lot of weapons. The running game is much better than it was last year with the addition of Jordan Mason, which will help make things easier for J.J. McCarthy. Plus, I don't think people realize that McCarthy actually can run the football, but as you saw, he's capable of averaging over 20 yards rushing a game on a weekly basis. And what we saw Sam Darnold do last year in this offense, like I said before, this season, I expect the Vikings to be more balanced, running and throwing versus previous years with Darnold and Cousins where they were more pass-heavy. But that still should produce top 15 quarterback numbers for the rest of the way, so I'm all in on J.J. McCarthy. Next quarterback I want to talk about is Daniel Jones from the Indianapolis Colts. As I said, going into the season, like J.J. McCarthy, I thought people were undervaluing him as well. I had him as the top 20 quarterback going into the season, and he looked a whole lot better than that. Just a few years ago, he posted a top 10 season for quarterbacks, and last year, 4 of the 8 games he had were top 10 as well. He's a good runner that will easily average over 20 yards rushing a game, and he has weapons all around him with Warren, Pittman, Pierce, Downs, Mitchell, and not to mention one of the top 5 backs probably in Jonathan Taylor. Also in a division that's really, really weak, that them and the Jaguars should probably be fighting for come the end of the season. And I continue to see Daniel Jones probably be a top 15-ish quarterback also the rest of the way. So that's my waiver wire ads for this upcoming week. Hopefully this will help you manage it. And when it comes to, for example, most of the leagues that I'm in, There's free auction bidding. I look at a couple things when it comes to spending that money. Is it one, how much do a need do you have? Two, the idea that running backs, usually the only way running backs become available throughout the season is if a player gets hurt. Receivers, there's always some depth at wide receiver, but if you believe in some of those receivers I mentioned as being top 30-ish wide receivers for the whole season, then it's worth spending a lot of money on them early on so that you can have them on your roster. And then as far as like any other positions, like the quarterbacks I mentioned, if you're just adding those guys as a backup, you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money, but if you think they're a top 15-ish quarterback and you want to maybe keep them to see if they do continue to do this, that way maybe you drafted a high quarterback like a Jalen Hurts or Joe Burrow or someone like that, and you need to trade later on for a running back, now you have a quarterback. So again, this is Ryan Wilson. This is the Sports John. Hope you have a good day.